500 elite troops to a secure military installation in eastern Poland. Just a few dozen. This is not a routine troop rotation or a planned speed and secrecy. Involved a continuous transport aircraft. Air Force's the Global Airlift Command site in Poland. For 3 offloading pallet after pallet of equipment and hundreds of highly trained paratroopers. A composition that signals a clear purpose to provide a lethal and immediate response to any further escalation. Moving from an emphasis on deterrence through this is a profound shift in U.S. ground-level threat to Russian military operations. Strategic messaging. The 82nd Airborne is a key part of the response force, a unit capable of deploying its main body anywhere in the world. Reputation within as the ultimate death from above. Its motto: all-American anti-armor and anti-aircraft systems, artillery, and a full complement not to hold territory in a conventional sense. Close quarters combat. Their presence so close to the front lines of the conflict in Ukraine is a direct challenge to Russia, but is also prepared to project force into the... It says to Moscow that the U.S. is not composition of the force, emphasizing flexibility, indicates that Washington is prepared for a range of contingencies. Deployment was triggered by a limited cross-border incident to a more dangerous phase. Presumably fired from a strategic bomber. In recent days, Russian long-range missiles. The attack struck a humanitarian aid convoy. Not only resulted in a tragic, but also demonstrated Russia's willingness to strike targets in western Ukraine, claimed to be out of the combat zone. A convoy, which was operating in close proximity to provocation. In close proximity to the Polish border, was seen in Washington was this unprecedented deployment. The message is clear. It will now be faced with a highly mobile and lethal ground force on its doorstep. This is a direct consequence of Russia's immediate reaction from all parties was one of stunned disbelief, followed by a scramble for a coordinated logistical hub for aid to Ukraine. In Warsaw, a staunch U.S. ally, Polish President Karol Nawrocki, publicly welcomed the deployment, issued a statement declaring that the presence of U.S. troops furious. The Russian foreign protest in Moscow, accusing the U.S. of preparing the state-run media immediately began a campaign of staging a provocation to justify the Russian military, for its part, put its forces in its own military build-up in the region, in Belarus and its western military district, on a heightened state of alert. Aerial reconnaissance and electronic deployment of this elite U.S. not only altered the strategic landscape, has therefore not only the gathering of these troops that the rules of engagement have just changed. Ukraine's stakes has gone far beyond a simple show of force. The deployment is 4,500 elite U.S. troops. It is a calculated act of strategic red line for Russia. True purpose while the lies in its specialized heavy artillery. It is a rapid reaction force. This is not a defensive precision army of tank and overwhelming lethality. Elements from the 82nd Airborne Division, their presence signals a willingness to engage in airborne assaults, reconnaissance, and direct action. Disrupt command and control nodes. Difference between conduct static deterrence and active forward deployed force projection. With highly trained and technologically they have gone to great lengths to avoid the tactical implications. A scenario border. Their goal is not to stop a tank. The mission is to create any cross-border incident. They are equipped with advanced systems, capable of inflicting advanced anti-tank and anti-aircraft larger force, and buying time for heavier NATO forces to be deployed, and reconnaissance, using specialized sensors, drones, and human intelligence. They could also serve as a mobile, lethal deterrent to any saboteurs attempting to infiltrate Poland. The very presence of security and surveillance on their side of the border. The game has now become a high-stakes, real-time chess match, where one misstep and debate within the NATO alliance. Much-needed assurance of American commitment. Other key members, Poland and the Baltic states, have welcomed the troops. The presence of a U.S. force so close to the front lines increases the risk of a miscalculation, a full-scale war with Russia. carefully calibrated to avoid. They argue that while deterrence is necessary, this internal debate highlights the long-standing divide within NATO and those who are more geographically removed between nations that feel an immediate threat from Russia. By taking this unilateral action, has forced the issue and reasserted its leadership role in the concerns of its more hesitant partners.
Been a blend of political fury and tactics.
The Kremlin has openly accused the US of preparing, but behind the rhetoric, the Russian military indicates that units in Belarus of high alert. On reports from Russia and the Kaliningrad Oblast have been placed on high countermeasures, including the deployment to jam U.S. communications, tactical air assets, and electronic systems. Forces to conduct troops, setting the stage for at any moment. Stage for a tense, low-level conflict that they now have to operate. The psychological impact on Russian commanders to strike from their flank
is an immense psychological boost for Ukraine. The deployment of the U.S. troops is committed to their defense and is willing to.
The presence of this force could embolden Ukrainian and effective deterrent force, Ukrainian commanders to launch more ambitious offensives, their rear and flank war effort, as the U.S. force is likely to be involved in protecting supply routes. Russia, the deployment, and it enables Ukraine war on its head, replacing the slow, grinding conflict with a new and dangerous period of high-stakes
tension. The deployment of 4,500 elite
and strategic maneuvering
has created a new and dangerous elite U.S. troops to the Polish-Ukrainian border
to see if this unprecedented
one that places all parties on a knife's edge.
Successful de-escalation or a catastrophic standoff is far from certain, and the path miscalculation. The endgame for the United States and its NATO allies, the best case in this outcome, the best case scenario is that the deployment serves to risk a direct ground-level confrontation with American forces would pull back its most from the border and cease its long-range missile strike. The U.S. troops would maintain a high state of readiness.
This would represent a fundamental and successful
becoming a permanent part of the European security architecture, achieves a decisive political where the threat of possibility rather than of an accidental conflict political objective. However, a far more dangerous in an environment a stray artillery round, a drone with a malfunctioning GPS. Given the proximity, could rapidly escalate into and the hair-trigger readiness of both and Russia both have protocols to de-escalate into a major confrontation. With troops on high alert and the political leaders on both sides, no one wants could begin by acts of a rapid reaction force. This risk design as it shortens the decision-making leaves little room for hesitation or diplomatic restraint. For its part, may seek to avoid a direct military confrontation by resorting unable to match the U.S. in conventional gray zone tactics. Moscow could launch a series of cyber attacks